Hey everyone, Nick here, and welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and Part 9, the semi-final part to What If Skyquake Joined the Autobots. So it's going to be 2 parts shorter, pretty much, than the Cliff story. But I hope you guys have been enjoying with what I've been giving Skyquake. So before we get into the semi-final part of the story, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick, and further acknowledge and support the future of the channel by checking out the Discord, Patreon, and Google Doc on the homepage, as well as commenting future requests and expectations for this year. And with all that said, let's dive right in. So, last week left off, Dreadwing found Skyquake's immobilized plane body in the room with the clones. Now he has a decision to make. Is he going to use the clones for himself and turn on his twin and all the Autobots with no Decepticons around, maybe even team with Arachnid or her new ally or whatever and the Insecticons? Or is he going to try to recharge his twin's body using his Energon and the clones and all the electricity in the room? Whatever might be left. And Dreadwing thinks long and hard, but his loyalty was with the Decepticons. But now, it's with his twin. And his twin is still alive. So he has something to fight for. And the Autobots. And he resolved with his twin to stay by his side. So, he charges up some of Skyquake's Energon, hooks him up to some cords around the clones, and while they are getting created from Skyquake's lifeblood and everything, soon enough, after a few minutes, 5 Skyquake clones are created. And with enough energy and Dreadwing trying to help out, Skyquake is brought back. He is unimmobilized with the clones and the charging up around the area and everything. It was enough energy, but it pretty much took all the energy left out of this destroyed Harbinger, you know? So whatever energy was left there that Starscream would later come to use, it's nothing now. So, like, even the computers and stuff are down. So, the 5 Skyquake clones revitalizing Skyquake, that was all that was left of the energy in the Harvester, or Harbinger. You know, I get those two confused. Anyways, he transforms out of plane mode, because that's the last mode that he was in, attacking Arachnid before he was immobilized. And he gets out his blaster and still thinks that he's in the area to fight them. But Dreadwing calms him down and explains everything that happened. And then Skyquake turns around to see 5 clones of him, and it's pretty freaking confusing. But Dreadwing explains all of what happened and says that he had to do this in order to bring back Skyquake, because they don't really have too many options to, you know, bring back people who are immobilized. Because remember, the way that everybody, Optimus and Bulkhead and everything, were unimmobilized when Arachnid did it to them in canon was because Bumblebee took the remains of the immobilizer and Ratchet reformed them to break the hold. But here, they didn't have that luxury because Arachnid still has the immobilizer. So, Dreadwing had to improvise, and he's literally very lucky, even though some of Skyquake's, you know, functions are still a tad bit, you know, inoperable, but pretty much 90% of him is still online, thanks to this backup option. Because let's face it, unless they tracked Arachnid down directly and found out a way to destroy the immobilizer or knew of that whole thing, then literally they'd have no kind of way to bring Skyquake back. And he is the main lead of the story. So, in the semi-final part, I couldn't do that to him. Are you kidding? Anyways, now Skyquake and Dreadwing and the clones, I guess, don't know what to do. But they don't have to think about that for long. Dreadwing hears something outside and prepares his blaster and says Skyquake and the clones to ready themselves because he thinks that Arachnid and the Insecticons came back. But nope, it's Team Prime who tracked down Skyquake and Dreadwing's location because Dreadwing didn't clone the position, and after the electricity and everything went out in the Harbinger, all the signals were put online. So Team Prime was able to track down Dreadwing and then Skyquake and then 5 other signals, which now they've determined to be 5 Skyquake clones. And they think they're about to fight Arachnid or something, just in case, but nope, they all reunite and everything. And Skyquake and Dreadwing are happy to see Team Prime and not Arachnid and the Insecticons. And they start to explain a little bit, but Optimus stops them when he sees 5 Skyquake clones, and he's thinking to himself, what's going on here? But Skyquake and Dreadwing explain what has happened. And Skyquake and Dreadwing also say that since Arachnid is on the hunt for them with this huge Insecticon horde, and since she hasn't come back yet, she might be heading for the Autobot base right now. Remember, she knows where the base is. They didn't think about that. She literally knows where the base is. She could have attacked them at any time, but now that she is, their base is ruined. They cannot go back. Agent Fowler and everybody else and all the things that they left there, they have to send Fowler and all the stuff from their base to here. They can reclone the signal, and with the 5 Skyquake clones and do all this stuff, with all of Team Prime banding against, they can defeat Arachnid and the Insecticon horde easily. But they all need to be together and have every single weapon at their disposal, because Dreadwing might have distracted them, and Dreadwing and Skyquake put up somewhat of a fight before Skyquake was immobilized, but they're still heavily outmatched. That's why he also did the 5 Skyquake clones and wants the human Fowler and all the tools to be brought to this new base. Because if Arachnid was going to come back here, she would have done that already. So she must deem this base now useless since she got the immobilizer. So what that means is they can pretty much stay here until either Arachnid becomes too bored to attack, or they can try to pinpoint her signal going towards the base, their old base, and set up a trap to finish her off once and for all. And Optimus honestly has to agree with this because it was really his fault that Arachnid's put in this position. Think about it. He was the one who wanted to redeem her in the first place. And it's also Skyquake's fault because he let her go, even though Arachnid's a sneaky frickin' con. So it wasn't like he had too much of a choice. But it doesn't matter who the blame is to be. Dreadwing tries to get Agent Fowler's location and says to him and any other of his helpers to grab all the tools from the old Autobot base and vacate it immediately. The base is lost because they plan to set up a trap for Arachnid because they all know that she's going to go to that base to try to finish them off. So they all stage a plan. And now that all of Team Prime and the Skyquake clones are together, they want to ensure that they finish her once and for all. And Dreadwing also tries to get in touch with Wheeljack, but to no avail. Because remember, Wheeljack still doesn't trust Dreadwing for killing Seaspray. He trusts Skyquake way more than Dreadwing, but now even less now that he knows they're twins. So, yeah. So the old Autobot base is lost, and Skyquake and Dreadwing hold the Harbinger as their base. Because Optimus feels like they deserve it to be their base. Because they're the ones who found it, and Dreadwing brought back Skyquake, who has helped them since the day that he redeemed him. So he feels like they deserve it. Meanwhile, that ally that I was referring to should have been a dead giveaway for many of you. Arachnid goes back to find Silas, who has still been exceedingly unsuccessful with trying to get Cybertronian tech working because of Skyquake's involvement in the story. So, Arachnid webs him at one of his bases and all of Mech and says that, let's try this alliance again. It did seem to work when we first met, except our C and that B got in the way. And all of the Autobots, including the one who disguised himself as one of your patrol planes, right? Well, I think I might have the exact needs and wants to get you that army that you want so badly. Now, Silas is listening because he would be definitely listening at this point because Mech has exhausted all options to try to build an army. And without any Starscream or anything like that, no T-Cog, they're even more unsuccessful. So, she unwebs all of Mech and Silas, and he says that he's listening. So, Arachnid pulls the Insecticons into the base. And this puts Mech and Silas on edge, because they think they're about to get attacked. But no, Arachnid says that these Insecticons of hers are her army. But that's not why she came here. No. Not to wave them in front of her old partner's face. As if a human would ever be her partner, she thinks to herself. But she pulls one Insecticon ahead, and with a swipe of one of her back arms, she kills the Insecticon and then tears out his T-Cog. Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. Yes, the Insecticons could transform into, the flying bugs, but does that really mean that they had T-Cogs? We never figured that out. We know that Decepticons and Autobots had T-Cogs, but did we know that Insecticons had T-Cogs? I'm pretty sure that they would, even if they're a different form of hybrid Cybertronian. Arachnid commanded them, mostly, and she is a Decepticon, so she could transform, so why can't the Insecticons have a T-Cog, So she tears out the spark and T-Cog of one of her men that she just put down, and then uses that T-Cog to put in the experiment that Mech was working on. And then she gets all of the Energon that was in that Insecticon and puts it in, and Silas and Arachnid both stare, and Arachnid says to Silas, "You wanted an army? Now I've given you the means of creating one. Now we can both get revenge on the Autobots." So yeah, Arachnid came into this fully prepared. And remember, she still has the immobilizer, so just because Team Prime is looking frickin' stacked right now, Arachnid's not exactly sitting on her hands, Meanwhile, Ratchet detects a swarm of signals and in the direction of one of the old Mech bases or somewhere around there, especially with the help of Agent Fowler and everything. And Ratchet looks scared and says that if Arachnid's really going into this with a whole Insecticon horde and is teaming with Mech, and they're all heading towards the base right now, then they're going to have to come up with that trap or go there and fight, because they can't just wait for something to happen. But Dreadwing, he's not looking the least bit perturbed, because even though it took a while, he was able to get in touch with Wheeljack and formed a plan. Wheeljack will take care of this all by himself. And everybody is against this, but Dreadwing says that he had help. Dreadwing, all the Skyquake clones, and Skyquake himself planted bombs to give Wheeljack the perfect opening to finish Arachnid and Silas off once and for all. And as he says this, we cut to Arachnid, all of the Insecticons, Mech, copters, and soldiers all at the Autobot base. Will the trap that all the Skyquake clones and Wheeljack and Skyquake himself planted be enough for Wheeljack to do this all by himself? Or will the bots have to step in, and will Wheeljack actually meet his demise here, just like my Cliff story? Stay tuned for the finale of What If Skyquake Joined the Autobots.